Morning.
Calvin Watkins, Dallas Morning News. Micah Parsons, will he be practicing today with you guys?
Yeah, he will participate. Good conversation with Micah. He's excited to be here, excited to be a good teammate. And, again, it's awesome to have him here.
How much is that like a load off your shoulders, not having to worry about a hold in or a hold out with Micah, since you said he is going to practice?
Yeah, again, I mean, these contract negotiations are never easy. They're not easy on the club sometimes. They're not easy on the players. So the fact that these guys come in and they participate and do some things is great, but it's more about being around the players and the team, and that's what he's excited about doing.
Clarence Hill, DLLS Cowboys. Can you elaborate on participate? What does that mean? Will he do everything or just a few things? Did y'all drill that down on how much he's going to participate?
Yeah, I mean, it's a ramp-up period here for the next couple of days. So, again, there'll be different versions of participation. But, again, all the walkthrough stuff, some of the mock situations, things like that. And, again, individual stuff. So we'll see what it looks like as we get going. But it's a good plan. And, again, the biggest thing for me right now is that he's here and he's trying to engage with the other members of the squad.
One other question. Rebels on NFI, certainly you have Diggs is on Pup. Can you just talk about cornerback and the guys you have out there, and is there a need or is there concern about those guys, and when will they be available?
Yeah, again, I'm not going to put a time frame on it, Clarence. Those guys are all working hard. I think I mentioned yesterday the biggest thing for us is we've got some youth at corner that we're excited about. You know, Kalen Carson is a guy that, you know, we really felt strongly about last year, played really well early on before he had the shoulder surgery. We'll move some guys around. You're going to see Duran playing in different spots. But in terms of those guys, their timetable, they're working hard. They want to be getting back, and no different. You can still gain a lot of knowledge and things by not participating, which those guys are going to be doing a lot of stuff, getting their bodies right so they can go full speed when it's time.
Todd Archer with ESPN. How do you deal with the business of football when it comes to all this stuff? What's your philosophy going to be on that?
I don't get caught up in it. You know, Todd, I think it is what it is. You know, I've been around this game a long time. And, again, I'm excited that, you know, everybody's here. The energy's been great. The meetings have been awesome. Yesterday was a long day because the NFL gives you a bunch of mandatory things that you have to cover. We actually got into a little bit of football today, which is great. But the business is the business side. You know, there's contracts, there's negotiations, and if you lose a lot of sleep worrying about that stuff as a coach, it can be really frustrating. But you don't. You coach the guys, you communicate. I think that's one of my strengths is my people skills. I communicate to people. I'm open. I'm honest. And at the end of the day, I'm just excited that everybody's here, and the energy's been awesome. And I'm excited to go play some football.
You thought about sitting in that chair for a while and having that first team meeting at a training camp. Did it match up to what you thought it would be?
You know, I haven't given it much thought. I think once you do it, you know, those first couple times, you kind of get used to it. Like I said, the one thing about me, I've always been authentic. I'm going to lead to you know, my personality. We did have a competition. Somebody asked about it yesterday. Dak did beat Mike in ping pong, so that's big news to report. I'm sure Michael loved I said that, but please make the note, Micah did not have his paddle. So because he didn't have his paddle, does it count? Probably. But we have fun. We have fun, and we coach them up. And, again, it's a great group of guys.
I'm sure with the Athletic, can you give us just like maybe one portion of today's practice that you're really looking forward to the most?
Probably the blitz period. I think blitz periods this time of year when you don't have pads on, you know, it's a ramp-up period, like I said earlier, so you're really in helmets. You don't even have the soft protective shoulders. So I think we're going to build off what we did in the spring in terms of learning how to practice. You know, our tempo is clearly defined of what we're trying to do, and you know, that's always a good one because there's a lot of moving parts, there's a lot of disguise, and it usually is the fastest period in practice because there's movements, there's hot adjustments, there's cross trappers, things like that. So I always kind of like that, maybe as the old QB in me, how to pick up blitzes and test your protections against all of Flus's cool blitzes. Yeah, again, we're always just looking to add guys that have ability. Guy that we watched play for a while. I think we made some other moves, too, with Winfrey and Rochelle and guys, veteran players like that. This is going to be a physical-ass camp, and so we want to shore up certain areas that are in the trenches doing those things, and excited to get him out here. He's got a big learning curve that he's got to adjust to, but he'll do great. And again, you guys know the deal. It's 365. You're always looking, and Will and his guys do a great job along with Steven and Jerry. And but I like the look of these new guys that we've added.
Nick Harris, Forward Star Telegram. You had said back at the league meetings that no jobs are being handed out. You have the compete every day mantra. How competitive do you expect this camp to be compared to years past?
Well, hopefully it's the most competitive practice that I've been around. Otherwise, I'd be disappointed in my messaging and getting that across to the guys. I think what makes it, Nick, that competitive is the pieces that we've added. You know, you look at our roster from top to bottom, and we've filled in a lot of blanks. I mean, we've added some really good football players, and through free agency, through getting our guys back. And then, of course, the fact that that's the mantra and the mindset is we're going to compete in everything that we do. I would be very, very disappointed if it wasn't an extremely competitive deal. We're going to move guys around. That's part of playing the game. You know, no one should be given a spot. You know, we need to push Dak. We need to push Tyler Booker. You know, there's guys like that, you know, people think, well, he's enshrined in that spot. Yeah, I mean, he's got the lead, but he's not been named the starter yet. We got a shit ton of football to play before we make any final decisions.
And with Sam Williams, he wasn't on that list that came out with you guys as far as NFI or PUP. How excited are you to get him back, and then his recovery? You've had a front row seat for it, just to have him back on the field.
Yeah, Sam. I'm going to speak to Sam and John Stevens because both those guys just completely were. They're incredible. I mean, you talk about Sam, he did not miss a day. I mean, he really didn't. He didn't miss a day. He looks amazing. Again, we're going to be smart with those guys. They haven't, you know, played throughout the spring, so we'll be smart with those guys and how they participate. But cannot say enough about how bad he wants to go. And then, you know, for John, I mean, John is just one of those feel-good stories, man, where you're like, hey, you know, this guy, when the injury happened again, he could have really gone in the tank, and he didn't. And I think that's a testament to the young man. Same thing. We just had a walkthrough, and he made some mistakes that you would imagine, but he was kind of making them thinking and going full speed in his mind. But that's why you do this. That's why you have the talk-throughs, walkthroughs, mock situations, and things like that. But kudos to both those guys for what they did in the spring, and also to really Jim and Britt and the training staff and Harold and the strength staff for getting those guys back to where, you know, they're not on PUP.
Tommy R, StylesCowboys.com. With this being your first camp kind of running the show, are there things that you've taken from Pete or Mike in the past just to sprinkle in that kind of mixed together to make it Brian Schottenheimer's camp? And if so, what are those kind of aspects that you kind of mixed together?
Yeah, it's a good question, Tommy. The answer is yes. I'm a big note taker, and so I would go back probably to Steve Spurrier, my dad, Dick Vermeil, and I just always would write down things that I liked. You know, hey, when I get a chance to run a football team, this is what I like, or this is what I believe in. This is what I don't like, or what I don't believe in. And it's been rewritten a number of times. My vision and some of my, you know, things that I truly believe in have been adjusted. If you would have asked me, you know, if I take a job in the early 2006, 7 years, you know, does it look like it does today? Probably not, just because of the experience that I have now. And but yeah, I mean, I have notebooks upon notebooks that I've referred back to over the I'd say the past, you know, 15, 20 years in this business. And I plan on giving them to my kids one day and letting them have that for my grandkids.
Coach, not having Zach Martin here for this camp, where have you seen the drop-off, and where do you expect this younger group to take the step up?
Specifically offensive line? Well, I think it starts, you know, with the young players, rookies from last year. I think Cooper Beebe obviously was a guy that, you know, went in and played very well last year for a young center. We expect really great things from Tyler Guyton. Again, I always go back to Jalen Tolbert. You know, what Jalen Tolbert did year one, it wasn't, you know, a great year for him. He was the first guy back in the building. Tyler Guyton's been the same thing. You know what you're going to get from Tyler Smith. You know what you're going to get from Terrence. Both those guys are incredible. And then obviously the competition, bringing in Tyler Booker, Rob Jones. I think guy to watch out for is Nate Thomas. He's doing great. I mean, I could name 1,000 other guys, but Nate's a guy that we didn't get a chance to see a lot of football from last year. He's been great. But I think the identity that they bring, they're going to be what makes us go on offense. the offensive line. They've always set the mentality. They've always set the mindset. And I think we've got the right type of guys that have the right type of makeup, the right type of competitiveness to allow us to play a very, very physical brand of football that we feel like will help us win a lot of games.
Joe Hoyt, Dallas Morning News. Leadership was a buzzword yesterday. Obviously, you guys lost to Marcus Lawrence, some other veterans on the defensive side. When you have a guy like Micah Parsons who's kind of embraced this leadership and obviously showed up and is going to participate, what can that do for a locker room when you have a transfer of leadership?
Well, there's definitely a transfer of leadership. I think you can't look at, I mean, J. Lou was a great leader. D-Law, I mean, you mentioned Zach, right? But that's what's exciting, and that's football. That's football in today's era. So, Kenneth Murray, K9. I mean, here's a guy that, again, has incredible experience, plays the game the right way, hair on fire. I mentioned Jack Sanborn yesterday. I mean, these guys will take CeeDee Lamb. I mean, CeeDee's been great with George coming in. I mean, CeeDee's gone out of his way. He's more vocal. So sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's like, okay, those guys move on for different reasons. Who's going to step up? Somebody's going to step up. And, again, I think, I see it when I have to say less things or the coaches have to say less things. You've got guys that are kind of figuring it out and finding their voice.
Tyler Guyton obviously didn't play a lot in college. Didn't play a lot last year as well. When you're in this training camp, how important is it for him to kind of try to get that experience? Can you accelerate that experience before the season starts?
No, I would tell Tyler, one day at a time. I mean, he's going to have good practice. He's going to have good sets. He's going to have good run blocks. There'll be good periods. There'll be bad periods. I mean, that's why you practice. There'll be things that he does really, really well. And I think, part of training camp is the consistency. But for a young player like Tyler, it's not all going to be great. And so I think that's where you find out the makeup of Tyler. Hey, when you played left tackle in this league, that's it could be a long day. When you play some of these elite rushers, and that's what I'm excited. Him to go against some of the top rushers in the league and see how he does.
Brad Sham, Cowboys Radio 105.3, The Fan. Mozzie is reportedly considerably lighter. Is he still a 1, or is he a 3, or does it matter?
When you look at our front, we obviously want the flexibility to do that. I would say he's starting probably as a 1, but we want to be interchangeable. And, yes, he is lighter. He looks great. The best thing that's happened to Mozzie, he'll tell you, is bringing a guy in like Solomon Thomas and Peyton Turner that really just know how to practice one way. And sometimes when that stuff's modeled, you watch the way Mozzie Smith practiced in the spring when he was here, it was night and day from what he was. So I think he knows in this type of defense that we're going to play with Flus and Aaron Whitecotton, he knows that the ability to get vertical and chase out of the stack and things like that will be really, really important.
Evaluate him as the season goes on at the end of the year. Will statistics play a role in his evaluation, or will there be things, whatever position he's playing, that he will do that don't necessarily have statistics and make you say, oh, we want to bring him back?
Yeah, great question. Again, stats are part of the story. But if you're pushing the pocket and you're a 1 technique, or you're playing the 0 nose, we move our fronts and we're multiple, as you guys know we're going to be. If he's knocking the quarterback back and we're getting pressure and sacks off the edge, to me that's a stat that we recognize as a staff. It's maybe not out there for the world to see, but stats are part of the process. But when you get to the interior defensive and offensive line, sometimes stats can be misleading.
Jonah Javad, WFAA. Shotty, on the topic of leadership, I'm looking for kind of specific examples you've already seen from some guys maybe over the last 6 months that have kind of displayed the type of leadership you are looking for from some of your players. And it can be from maybe your highest paid to maybe undrafted guys.
When I talk about the leadership part of it, I think, and I'm not avoiding your question, I look at what Dak and the skill group did going to Georgia. I think the attendance was almost 100%. There were 1 or 2 guys I don't think that were able to make it. But, to get that many guys to go during the dead period and work and train together, you see the stuff that the defensive line was doing together. Those are things that it's not just leadership, it's connection. It's these guys like to be around. I think we had more guys stay here at our facility and train with Harold and his guys in the weight room over the course of the dead period than probably years past that I remember, maybe from any time I've been around it. That tells you these guys like what we have to offer. They love being around each other, training, pushing each other, and that they feel really, really good about what we're trying to build. So it's not one thing per se, but when you see groups of men coming together when they could be anywhere in the world, they could be traveling, they could be sitting on a beach, and they're working, sweating, bleeding, laughing, crying, doing that together, to me, that's when you've kind of captured their hearts, and you just ask and you keep that brotherhood going.
Mike Ducey, Fox 4, you talk about taking notes and learning from the great coaches you've worked for. What's the most significant way that your approach to the game has evolved as a result of that education?
Great question. I just think, and I answer it, I know you guys get tired, but it is the truth. So I'm going to say, I think the value of people, again, when I was younger and, I'd been passed up for some head coaching jobs and things like that, I think I kind of pressed and said, if I have the best offense in the league, I'll get a job or whatever it is. It's not about that. Like, the journey is more fun with the people. And so coming back to Dallas and being around a guy that I love and respect like Dan Quinn, I mean, the connection, Pete Carroll had it, Dan Quinn has it, different coaches have it. And so I think that's probably what's changed the most. I mean, you always change scheme. The game changes, but like the value you put on people and the connection and the relationships that you build where, you're going to have real hard conversations when you sit in my chair. That's part of the job. But it's easier to have that hard conversation when you're delivering the message, maybe that's not as easy for the player or coach to hear. It's a lot easier to hear when they know you love them and you care about them. And so that's probably the thing that came out my years in Seattle with Pete. It obviously was reemphasized being around Dan. And so that's probably how I've adjusted the most in the last 5-8 years.
Hey, Coach Patrick Walker, DallasCowboys.com. From both a health and a production standpoint, last season was wildly uncharacteristic of Jake Ferguson. What have you seen from him this offseason as he works to bounce back, and what are your expectations for him as a leader and a young tight end?
Yeah, great leader. Same thing with Mozzie, lighter, moving around really, really well. I think last year, you look at, first game against Cleveland, he gets his knee pretty banged up. Then he's got, a concussion mid-season at some point. I mean, that's so uncharacteristic of Fergie. Fergie's a really, really good player in this league, and he has always been. He's one of those guys that as a young player, second-year player a couple years back, there was leadership. I mean, he's an enforcer. He's a guy that plays the game the right way. He plays the game on the edge, and I have zero doubts in my mind that his production will get back to really where it was the year before. I think last year was just kind of one of those years that you look back on your career and this is more of a fluke than anything.
Coach, KJ Doyle, KRGV, what are some of the things you remember going back, almost 30 years to your first training camp as an assistant?
Damn. Where was I? St. Louis, the Rams. I remember pulling up to training camp, and Tony would get mad at me for saying this, and then seeing Dick Vermeil have to tell Tony Banks that he had to take his Rottweiler home. Tony had brought a Rottweiler to training camp, and Tony was a young player. I think he might have been a rookie, and Coach Vermeil was like, no, you can't. The dog can't stay here. But I do remember that. It was like my first day going in there. But then I just think the hours. I remember because I was a low man on the totem pole, and you think it changes, but the higher the chair you get, actually, the harder you work. But just how good the players were, how talented they were. We had Isaac Bruce, Torrey Holt. We had some really good players, and I remember that's why I decided to get into coaching and not playing because I knew I wasn't good enough to play with those guys.
Christy Scales, Cowboys Radio on 105.3 The Fan. This has to do with how you structure practice, particularly special teams. The rule change with the touchbacks on kickoffs, encouraging more kickoffs. Have you had to allocate more time for coverage and also having a new coordinator with Sorensen? Have you had to allocate more time?
We're aware of it. We started actually today, Christy, with kickoff. We'll do a lot of it. The rule change we think benefits us because of who we have returning. Obviously, but Nick will do a great job, and but yes, we did start with it today when we got into the meetings because it is different, and it's one of those situations that once the guys get familiar with it, they'll be fine.
Joe Trahan, WFAA TV. Shadi, I want to pull on that thread about some of the past coaches and what you learned from them, and I would like to specifically talk about your father because when you take the field for this
particular practice is kind of the unofficial start of when we start doing this thing for real. What were your thoughts in terms of your father be? What will you think about? Have you thought about it already? What will be on your mind?
You know, I don't think so. I think about them every day. I don't think about them specifically into, okay, what's this first practice going to be like? I just love coaching ball. I mean, you guys see my energy, whether I was a quality control coach, a head coach, a coordinator, a quarterback coach, I don't change. I love this game. I love being on the grass with those guys. I love getting a chance to get face-to-face and teach them and correct them and congratulate them and things like that. You know, my dad was very different than I was. You know, he coached in a different era. And that's okay. And I think the thing that he was the best at, in my opinion, was the attention to details. I thought he was amazing. But I think where I will be emotional, I'm not going to lie, will be that first regular season game. The national anthem, I always talk to him during the national anthem. It's always been something that is important to me. Obviously, yeah, I'll be emotional that first game.
Bill Jones, CBS Sports Texas. You talk about building brotherhood on this team. You could tell us the story of Legends Day this offseason, what impact it had on you, the story about Randy White and Bob Lilly.
Man, you guys are trying to get me to cry before this first practice. That's kind of messed up. Listen, the legacy of the Cowboys is incredible, you know, and I will share the story. I'm happy to share it. I think I might be wrong on the number. There's probably 30-something plus guys that came back. We invited to come back. We invited the legends to come in and sit in meetings, be a part of the guys. They actually they competed. They shot free throws. That was fun. But where I get emotional thinking about it was we found out the day before, Emily Cruz Robbins found out that Bob Lilly wanted to come. But his wife wasn't able to bring him. And Randy White got word, and he said, I'll go get him. I'll go pick him up. And what I thought of was not that as much as that's one of our players. That's Dak doing that for Fergie, or Fergie 30 years from now, 50 years from now. That's what a brotherhood is. That's what a great teammate does. Oh, I got a buddy that wants to be somewhere but he can't. I'll go get him. And so that's, I'm guessing, 50, 40-something years ago. But the fact that Randy White was willing to do that tells you not only is he one of the greatest players of all time, but one of the greatest human beings.
Coach Nicole Hutchison, Dallas Cowboys Media. Maris Liufau had an impressive rookie season last year. What are you looking for out of him to kind of make that year two jump?
Yeah, we love Maris. We love his length. He's new to the system, which a lot of these guys are. Very, very good pass rusher, great strength. He's got great length. When you watch Maris play. But again, Maris is one of those guys that he's going to show up more when the pads get on, if I'm being honest, because of the play style, the temperament, and the things that we're doing out there today. He'll be great. He'll be going through his assignment and alignment and things like that. But I'm excited not just for Maris. I'm excited for Flus and Gonzo and those guys, the new coaches, to see him when the pads get on, because that's where you really feel what Maris is all about.
Getting back to Mozzie just for a second, because we've been there since the rookie year. He lost a lot of weight. They were trying to get him to go upfield. It didn't really work for him. Last year he gained weight back. Now you're asking him to lose weight again to go upfield. Just talk about, is he under 300? Is he 290? What's that weight look like? Because when he was drafted, he was a big so-called nose tackle anchor for the run defense.
Well, I think what it speaks to is, number one, is that when you change defensive systems, a lot of things change, right? So you went from DQ, then you went to Coach Zim, then I've obviously got Eberflus. There's different styles. There's different, the techniques, the way that you play. So Mozzie, in his experience and as he's maturing and figuring it out, has been in great communication with us, with A-Dub, White Cotton. He's realizing the system and that we want guys that can run. The size is fine. He can still penetrate. His leverage and ability to do and move people and things like that isn't compromised because of his length and size. But what he likes is the ability to retrace and chase out of the stack that he needs to do at a high level to be successful in this attack front that we play. Very, very different than what he was asked to do last year with Coach Zim, who's a great coach. But what it means is that, hey, we've got this system in place. This is the system we're going with. And, again, we need some stability on the defensive side of the ball here and plan to have that for a long time.
Like 305 5 with the under?
He's right at 300.
Okay, thank you.
Brian, you mentioned yesterday that Dak's practice work will be monitored, I guess is the right way to say it. What does that look like? Is that he gets a day off, he gets a team period off, he gets one less rep?
It's more reps. It's just more reps. We've adjusted some of the things we do pre-practice. He won't take every ball handling rep, with all the different running backs, and he won't throw to all the receivers. So it's just, everything's measured. I mean, this day everything's measured with catapults and how much, how fast they're moving and how much torque that they create in their bodies. But it's got nothing to do with taking practices off. We'd have to probably tie him up in the locker room to do that. But it's more of asking him, communicating to him why we want him to do this. He's not the first quarterback in the history of the league that when they become a certain age, you're just mindful of, run him down. He's in incredible shape. He looks great. He's 100% healthy. So it's got nothing to do with that. It's more about just, hey, let's be smart and don't need to throw 1,500 balls after practice. Get the throws that you need, and once you get those throws, you're good.
And does that potentially impact what he may or may not do in preseason games?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't decided that yet. A lot to be decided before we do that. Obviously, these next couple of weeks of practice, but we haven't made any decisions at this time. But not really. I mean, we'll look at the practice reps first and then go from there.
You had mentioned earlier that CD's been really good with Pickett since he's come to the building. Not to say he was checked out before, but have you seen CD's energy kind of come to life since Pickett has arrived?
Well, I don't even think it's that. I think CD. I saw CD when I first got here, and he was so excited to be back. CD missed last year's camp. You forget about that, right? He's like, I'm just happy to be back. I'm like, well, what do you mean? You've been here the whole offseason. He's like, no, here in Oxnard. I just think he's in a really good spot mentally, and he's excited that George is here. George has been great with CD. These guys train together, and they realize that with what we've built and having other guys that surround them, it makes it incredibly difficult on defenses to match up for us. But the love of football is important. I just say I love coaching. I love being around these guys. I think our players love playing the game, and they love playing the game together, and hopefully that's what you guys see over these next couple weeks.
Pat, last one. We got 3 minutes.
Hey, Brian. Pat Doney with NBC DFW. I was going to ask you about George Pickens in particular. I know you were impressed with him in the spring. What makes him special as a player, and how does having a weapon like that added to CD, to elite receivers like that, help you on offense in September?
Yeah, I would say that's my call-out song. His ability to track a football is uncanny. You can't watch the guy play the deep ball and be like, okay, that's just different. So when he's not doubled, he's really open. And so I think that's something we're getting used to with him. He's been great with our ability to move him around. It's been different. We think to maximize him, he can't just play one spot. He can't just play an X. We're going to move him around. He's been great with that. He's excited about that because he and CD need to be interchangeable. But the instincts are also uncanny, just for finding zones and, the ability to sit in windows that maybe some people don't see. But the number one thing that jumps out at me would be the ability to track the deep ball because it is uncanny.
And building on that, Dak, how much does that elevate the potential of this offense to have another weapon like that overall for the offense?
It's huge. I think you looked at us last year. We just didn't have enough explosives. Both running and passing, we didn't have enough explosive plays. And, again, defenses adjust and they change. But, you have decisions to make. And when you have a receiver like that when he's one-on-one, you feel really good that he's going to be open, and at least you have a not 50-50. That's what everybody says, a 70-30% chance it's going to work. Get you excited game planning. Thanks, guys.